What is chronic illness and what can we do about it? Today, I'm going to share with you a little metaphor that I use to describe what chronic illness or what I see it as, and how we can change our perspective of what it is to maybe look at it in a more positive or certainly a more curious way. So having a chronic illness feels a scary, dark place, but actually with a little bit of play on how we think about it, maybe our perception can change and we feel a little bit more positive. Because if we feel a bit more positive about a situation, we, for a start, feel more hopeful. We feel more motivated to make some changes that could potentially help us. And we also, our energy gets into a place where we feel like we're able to, because sometimes if our energy is in a dark place, then we've got no incentive to want to move at all. So I'm hoping that this little story, which is what it is, will help you to shift that perspective. And at the end, I'm going to share with you a visualization, relaxation exercise that is going to take you to a place to help you expand your vision of what is possible. So let me share with you. Let me get into the right place. In the meantime, just breathe. What is chronic illness and what can we do about it? This is a lovely little drawing that my son drew for me. Chronic illness is like an elephant coming into your room. So here we can see this elephant coming into your room. The trunk comes into your room. Here you are merrily doing your thing, whatever your thing is, happily doing your thing without any conscious awareness of anything entering your room until the trunk comes in. And the trunk comes in a little bit, oh, a little ache and pain here, a little numbness here, a little brain fog there. And what do we do about it? Well, if you're anything like me, we ignore it. We carry on regardless because we've got goals to achieve. We've got a life to live. We're merrily on our way and we're not taking any notice of this trunk that's come creeping into the room. So we ignore it and carry on regardless. But the elephant's not going anywhere. So he pokes his head inside the room and starts flapping his ears about as well as his trunk. So maybe your pains get a little bit more painful. Maybe the numbness gets a little bit more strange. Maybe the brain fog becomes a little bit more foggy. Maybe the tiredness creeps in. But still, we're wanting to ignore it. We don't want anything to stop our lives, our goals that we're crushing, our lives that we're going on. We carry on regardless. Or maybe at this point you've gone to see a doctor and you're going through some myriad of tests that are going to check out to see what label they can put on your condition. And if you're lucky, I suppose, and if you get a doctor that asks the right questions and takes you through the right tests, you might get a label early on. Or you might now be stuck in a scary, confused place of knowing that something's not quite right, but not actually knowing what it is. Or you may be just carrying on regardless, or you're carrying on regardless anyway, because we are strong human beings and we can toughen it up. We can get through life. We are strong. But eventually, that elephant comes in and takes over our whole room. So there it is, sitting on your favourite seat, taking over the remote controls of your TV, and there's no space for you. This elephant is taking up more and more of your life. And still at this point, you may not even know what it is. You may be still trying to ignore it. Or maybe you've got a label for it. But when you get that label, what does that feel like? Feels like the elephant is right on top of you. And if you've ignored it up to this point, the elephant is saying, yeah, try and ignore this one. And it's really difficult because we have an elephant stuck on our chest. And elephants are very big. They're very heavy. And as angry and as upset and as frustrated as we might be, and as much as we hit and shout and cry and scream and swear, the elephant is not going anywhere. And at this point, we get a diagnosis. We get this big, scary label that's like an elephant sitting on top of us, that is stopping us from moving forward on the life that we thought we'd got all mapped out. It feels like doors are slamming all around. What we could once do with ease, we can't do at all. Whether that's walking, whether that's jumping, whether that's cycling, whether that's swallowing, whether that's seeing, whether it's being able to see what's going on. Things that we once took for granted suddenly become problematic, maybe even painful. And if it's not physically painful, it will be emotionally painful, because our identity as was that person that was able to, maybe you were an athlete, maybe you were a dancer, maybe you were a swimmer, maybe you, whatever you were, then suddenly you're not able to do anymore. So it's almost like part of your identity has been chipped away with this elephant sitting on your chest. So what can we do about it? And what I like about using the elephant in the room and the elephant sitting on your chest as a sort of metaphor is we can play with it. So my son drew these for me. So the elephant in these drawings is a playful character. He's colourful. He's not dark and mean and scary. Might be heavy and a bit irritating, but actually it looks quite fun. He looks quite nice. He looks quite friendly. But it's almost like changing the metaphor a little bit. We've suddenly been attached to, it's almost like having an arranged marriage with an elephant. Who would actually choose to get married to an elephant? Probably not many of us. But if this elephant is not going anywhere, bit like an arranged marriage, you can get angry, you can get annoyed, you can get peed off, you can be resentful, you can be scared. But maybe if we actually get to know what the elephant is all about, just like if you were getting to know a new partner, that the elephant it's part of us now. It's not a separate entity. It is in this picture, but actually it's part of us. And it is almost sitting on top of us and stopping us going where we once could go with ease. So how can we think differently about this elephant to allow us to get to know it? So my suggestion is if we get to know the elephant, get to know what inspires it, what motivates it, what it likes, what it doesn't like. Maybe we could train that elephant, or maybe that elephant with the right incentives could actually get off us from its own accord and not sit on top of us anymore. Maybe it could walk next to us and we could walk next to the elephant, and actually that doesn't feel as scary. And we could walk along quite pleasantly and have a pet elephant. Okay, life will be different if everywhere you went included bringing a pet elephant. You have to think more consciously of how you're going to get places, how you're going to get the elephant in and out of places, how you're going to, what the elephant needs for food. How is the elephant going to stay happy while you're walking along your life? And how are you going to have to adjust your life to take into consideration the needs of your elephant that is firmly attached? But my suggestion or invitation is, if we can get to know our elephants on a really deep level, maybe we can move from walking alongside the elephant to we can actually ride the elephant. And how different life might be if, instead of being sat on by an elephant or walking alongside an elephant, we're now actually riding on top of it. So how do we get to know our elephant? How do we get from feeling like we're being sat on by a very heavy, cumbersome, immovable object to actually riding on top of something? So you can imagine, if this was a real scenario, how your perspective of life might change when you're going from underneath something to being on top of something. So this is just a little invitation to have a little play. But then the next question is, of course, how do you get to know your elephant? How do we learn what elephants need, what they want? And obviously we could do a lot of researches about elephants, but this is a metaphor. And the elephant, to me, is something deep inside. So if we are out of balance because we're living with chronic illness of some sort, that chronic illness is manifesting in some sort of symptoms. So you are experiencing symptoms. So how can we learn from these symptoms, this elephant that's now part of our lives, whether we like it or not? How can we get to know that part of our body that is trying to talk to us? And it's a real big ask to go from being, with the elephant sitting on top of you, where you're feeling angry, frustrated, resentful, to a place where you're actually riding on top of the elephant. And in order to make that transition, for me, it feels like we've got to change our, not only our perception, but the way we feel about our illness. And to change from being angry and resentful to feeling grateful and appreciative. And that is still a journey that I am going on, but it's by shifting and using this metaphor as a bit of a remembering when you're starting to feel a bit angry and a bit resentful. It's like, yeah, okay, how can I get on top of that elephant? So I'm just going to share with you some questions, because I've been guided recently just to think about how can we get to know our elephant. And it's by asking good questions. And the good questions come from a place of what it is you want, what it is you want to go forward, and formulating the questions in such a way that you're focused on the outcome that your desire is. So I've come up with a couple of them, and if you need any further guidance on creating questions that are going to move you forward to being able to ride your elephant, or at least walk next to it and get to know your elephant a little bit more, then come and have a chat with me. But here's some just to get you going. And what I'm going to do is give you these questions just as we're not necessarily going to have an answer right away, but just have these as some starting points as questions. Then I'm going to take you through a guided visualization stroke meditation where the questions may or may not be answered, but it starts getting you in a place where the answers can appear, and the elephant has got space to roam, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is go through the questions in a second. I'm going to stop the recording and restart it again. So actually, if you want the visualization as just the visualization for you to do daily or whenever feels inspired, then actually the answers will start coming up. So my next question is, or my first question is, how can I develop a stronger connection to my higher self? And my higher self might be, depends what you call it. I call it my higher self. It's the energy inside of me that has the answers. And that might be God, it might be the universe, it might be, hi Rosen, it might
Hey,
be a number of the energy that knows more, basically, the energy that is inside of us. So, how can I develop a stronger connection to my higher self? How can I develop a stronger connection to God? How can I develop a stronger connection to the universe? How can I develop a stronger connection to the essence of love that's deep within? How can I develop a stronger connection to my heart that has the answers? And Rose and I was just saying, you'll need to go back on the recording and see my metaphor of the of an elephant and how we can get to know our elephant. But in a moment, I'm just going to take you through a guided visualization meditation that's going to get into a place that enables you to create a
sure.
space for these answers to appear. So that's the
Okay.
first question. The second question is, I'm just going to mute you, Rosen, so I can, and then we can ask questions at the end. How can I see things differently? So going back to the metaphor of the elephant and the elephant sitting on top of you, when you're sitting underneath an elephant, life looks very, very dark. Even if you imagine yourself taking from underneath the elephant to on top of the elephant, how could you see things differently if I was riding the elephant? So using the elephant as the metaphor of a chronic illness, how can I see things differently about this illness, that this label that I've been given, this challenge that I'm now facing? And just put that out there. And are you willing to see things differently? So maybe it's just affirming, I am willing to see things differently. What if things were different and I'm just seeing them through sorry, Rosen, I'll just mute you because you've got some background noise going on. So and another question which is around the same vein of thought, how could this situation or challenge benefit me? So that is actually seeing, really turning on whatever unwanted thing that's going on in your life right now. What if actually this situation is going to be of benefit to you? So how can you see that differently? And this takes a lot of acceptance of where you are, but also really letting go of actually how you thought things were going to be. What actually, if this situation that you're going through right now is a real benefit to you, you just can't see it because you're sitting underneath the elephant. But actually, once we get to know our elephant, which is a metaphor for the how the illness is manifesting in your body. So how you can get to know those parts of you that maybe you've ignored up to now, or we haven't taken any notice of, which is the same as ignoring, I suppose, to enable us to get a deeper sense of clarity to move us forward towards a life that maybe isn't what we wanted, or maybe even what we thought we were going to have, but actually doesn't have to be a bad life. And I don't know about you guys, but I know before the MS, I didn't spend very much time visualizing where I was going. I was just going along with everybody else's flow. So this super challenge has been given to me to get really, really clear on what I want in life. And part of that is just how can I love myself more? I've got some other questions that I journaled about earlier as well, which I haven't written down. I don't think. Is there another one? No, that's it. So I'll stop the sharing. How can I love myself more? Because that is I'm pretty good at beating myself up. I'm not quite as far along as I want to be. You've got a goal in mind, and you think, or I think, that actually achieving that goal, that's where success and happiness lies. But it's not in achieving the goal where success and happiness lies. It's who you become in how your identity changes as you move towards that goal. And if you've been labeled, if you've got a label of a diagnosis of a chronic illness, then your goals are likely to be different than what they were before. If you had any conscious goals that you were working towards, I'm not sure, and you'll know that question. But now your goals might be very different. Instead of the next best job or the next big car, maybe it's just being able to walk to the shop. Maybe it's just being able to drink a drink without a straw. Maybe it's just being able to jump over a line, to walk up steps without having to hold on to the side. So your goals change, and they might in the world that we live in, where everyone seems to be, we're in a world where the next best car, the next big job, big house, it's all about things. Actually, us getting to know our elephant is achieving the goals that maybe there were goals when you were 2 or 3, when you were first learning to walk, where you just stepped, you got up and you fell down and you got back up again, you fell down and you got back up again. And somehow at 2 or 3 that's okay, but when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or wherever you are, then it feels, really, is this where I'm at? Back to even just walking is my goal. But getting really conscious about how our bodies move, because in our desire to get to the next best thing, or to get caught up in life's successes, we've been disconnected with our bodies. So with the idea of getting back to the elephant and getting to know your elephant, maybe the elephant is just actually your body. And how do we get to know that? So there is no right or wrong way to this. This is your journey. And what I am inviting you to do right here, right now, is just shift your perspective a little bit. So if you've been given a label of a diagnosis, or more than one diagnosis, which is frightening and scary, and feels like doors are shutting all around, and you're feeling resentful, and you're feeling scared, and you're feeling angry, that's not to say those feelings aren't valid. 100% they are. So get them out of your system. And another way of getting to know your elephant is really getting to know how your emotions travel through your body. So allow them emotions to come in. Go to a place which, if you can look out to sea, it's a really good place to do it, where preferably nobody's around, and just scream your frustrations out to the universe and let it vibrate back out at you, and see what comes in, and just allow the tears to flow, the tears of frustration. A bit like if you were suddenly, well, we are, suddenly we've got this this new partner in life that we didn't want, we didn't ask for, but they're here. So we can stay angry at this elephant, or we can get to know it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do for you now, we'll have a little moment where I'm going to invite you just to follow my words, follow the sound of my voice. I'll take you through a guided meditation. I'm going to stop the recording and restart it again. So if you want, if you like the visualization and it works for you, then let me know and I can send you a copy just of that piece so you can listen to it again and again. So get yourself nice and comfortable, hydrate, feel supported. Let the dogs have a little bark and then we can shut her off. So I'm going to stop the recording and start the recording again. Thank you.